Good Friday morning. It is October 20th, 2017. Tim Radford here, along with Sheriff Derek Palmer from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office on 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am. Now, Derek, if I have the headphones up a little too loud, just do this to let me.
So far, so good.
I haven't been able to hear this week, so I feel human again today. And I noticed last night at the political debates, I was having a little trouble hearing people talk to me, and hopefully I didn't look too awkward.
Or maybe you'll get all that cleared up where you can hear well again.
I hope so. But yeah, if I have the headphones up a little too loud, just let me know, because my one control controls both of our headphones.
Well, like I say, so far so good, so
yeah.
I think everything's fine.
Yeah, one of these days, Derek is going to be on this side of the control board. We've talked about this.
I keep trying to let him let me run the radio station, and he won't do it.
He sees all these pretty buttons with red, green, and yellow lights on them. He wants to push all of them.
Yeah, I think it's just neat. I want to play commercials and those kind of things too, so I'll just sit over there and mash buttons.
We'll plan on a Friday where you run the radio station.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll
Sheriff
be fun.
Palmer takes over WKRK.
Commandeer the radio station.
That's right.
Yeah.
How you been, Sheriff?
Been doing well. Been doing good.
Very good. What's going on in the interesting world of law enforcement and public safety?
Well, as you know, you've got Halloween coming up, so I guess we'll start there and talk about the some safety tips and things for our kids coming up. You know, we always have a big event here on Duke Street in Murphy, and it's my understanding, I'm assuming they're doing that on Halloween night. I've not heard anything different. Have you heard anything about that?
It's a Tuesday night, and I always get asked at least 20 or 30 times on Facebook, is Halloween on the 31st this year? Like, yes, it is.
It's always on the 31st.
Usually it only moves if it's on a Sunday night, I think,
right.
And maybe a Wednesday for church night, but I think only Sundays.
Usually Sundays is about the only time.
But is it going to be on a school night? So I'm sure the trick-or-treaters going to get a little early and go around. It wasn't too long ago,
right?
Like 2 or 3 years ago, that it was actually snowing on Halloween. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember.
I think it was like 2 years ago.
I know our memories kind of fade and change over the years, but it just seems like my sister and I was talking the other day. It just seems like when I was younger and growing up in Murphy that it was always so cold by Halloween. You know, I can remember as kids trick-or-treating and Mom and Dad wanting to put coats on us and us getting upset because it's covering our costumes up. Nobody could see it, you know.
And we always wore those masks that were plastic, hard plastic. You couldn't see out of them anyway.
So it's like just stumbling till you run into something.
Yes. All the safety features back then and now.
There you go. But it always seemed like weather was a lot colder then than it is now. And it probably wasn't much different, but it just seemed like it was.
Well, this year we've had a very extended summer into this fall.
We have.
Like today, we're looking for highs near 80, and it's mid to late October.
Right. It's just one of those things, you know, that summer lasts a little bit longer this year than normal. And I know I've talked to other people that runs outdoor businesses, construction, paving, those type of things, and they're glad of it because they're getting to make some little extra jobs this year that they normally don't get to make. And so we're just thankful for that. But we are. That time again where it's Halloween and the kids out trick-or-treating and those type of things. So I know, you know, in Andrews, they're typically around 6th Street there in Andrews, and the Happy Top area is a big area there for trick-or-treaters, and downtown also there in Andrews, the business owners. And then in Murphy, of course, you got Duke Street and Valley River Avenue and that area there. Don't seem like there's as many trick-or-treaters out in the county as there used to be. I'm sure we still get a few out there, but people don't kind of go door to door in the county as much as they used to. So Murphy and Andrews is the big spots that we really focus in on kids and trick-or-treating. And so mentioning that, I want to just mention the people out there that doesn't have kids or doesn't participate in the trick-or-treating events. Be careful when you're out driving around. Be careful when you're out patrolling. Be careful when you're out driving and you're going to Walmart and going to different places, because even there around Halloween night, when it starts getting dark, and even before dark, you'll start seeing kids out in the street. I know a lot of our smaller kids trick-or-treat during the daytime hours. And they do a lot of business in town, and both towns, Murphy and Andrews, trick-or-treat through the towns, the courthouse. They come by the sheriff's office, the police department, those type of things. And so Even during the daylight hours, please be careful driving. You never know when someone might dart out in front of you, or a kid get lost from its parent or something like that. So just even if you're not participating, be careful and think about the safety issue they're involved on Halloween.
And I'm sure we'll hear from Chief Jacobs about here at 5 Points there about
Right.
the traffic. Usually they block off a section of road there for the safety of the kids. And I want to say thanks to all the law enforcement agencies out there who help out on special nights like Halloween, well, all year round. Also, I want to say thanks to like the people who live on Duke Street. I didn't realize. I know there's a lot of kids, but I was talking to some people there. They spend like $500 for candy for kids to give out because
it's expensive. I usually try to set up there on Valley River Avenue there on Halloween night. I didn't get to last year, but I normally try to set up there somewhere, and it takes generally around $500 or $600 worth of candy to hand out there.
It's amazing. There's so many kids that go there.
Yeah, and it's continuous too. It usually starts around, for that area, usually around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's usually going well until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And things start not dying down about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and most people are starting to run out of candy and money by then. But yeah, there's a lot of people come through there, and I did have the numbers on the amount of people that come through there, but I don't remember. It's in the thousands of kids that come through.
It really is amazing, and how expensive that gets
Right.
for those families. And but they love doing it. They love seeing all the kids
Right.
in their costumes, and it's just pretty cool.
Yeah. One thing about that too, as we've mentioned about kids darting in and out of traffic, and even where cars are parked and things of that nature, you have to be really careful because someone could walk between the cars and out in front of you. And like you say, with those masks and different makeups and different things that kids use, sometimes it's hard for them to see. So sometimes they may step out in front of a car. So drive a little slower than you normally drive.
And a lot of times kids are thinking, "I want candy," and they're not really
Right.
looking left or right. They're going straight for the candy without paying attention to their
Right.
surroundings.
And the same thing applies too also when you're going, like turning into driveways and through alleyways and things of that nature. Be careful when you're making those turns and turning into areas, because you can't always see these kids. It's Halloween, a lot of them are dark colored costumes. And so of a nighttime, especially right at twilight, right when it's getting dark, when your eyes have not really adjusted yet, that is always a tough time right there, that that you have a potential of maybe having an accident with someone wearing dark clothing. So be careful, especially during those twilight and just when it's first starting getting dark. Also, one thing you don't think about a lot, and we hate to even have to think about this, but we do. When you're going and you're taking your children out and you're planning your different areas that you're going to trick or treat, and you're looking at different houses, take just 2 or 3 minutes and check the sex offender registry before you do that. Look at the houses, look at the route that you're going on. Look at where our sex offenders are registered, where they're staying, and there might be some areas that you want to avoid, and there might be some houses that you want to avoid for that. And you might not want to avoid it, but at least you want to be aware of the situation when you're going into these places. So, and like I say, we hope nothing happens. We don't expect anything to happen, even with that. But it never hurts just to plan for that and to know where you're at.
Knowledge is power.
Right. When you're taking your kids out and you're going into these places and you leave your home, let someone know where you're going. If you're a mother and you're taking your kids, or you're a dad and you're taking your kids and your spouse is staying at home, let your spouse know where you're intending to go, whether you're going to Duke Street or whether you're going to Andrews or to an event or to a Halloween party or someone's home, or whatever route you're planning to take. Let someone know, that the routes that you're going to take and where you're going. That way, if someone was to get strayed or gets lost or don't return in a timely manner and they need their loved one found, or there might be an emergency and they just need them found, that way we have an idea of where to look for somebody or where to start looking for that person or that child. So kind of just use a little bit of knowledge about that. Also, make sure your kids trick-or-treat in a group. One of the things when we talk about the sex offender registry and the homes and bad things that can happen while you're out there, things are less likely to happen if you're traveling in a group or traveling with several people. Sex offenders, persons who kidnap kids, who kidnap people, who hurt people. They're typically opportunists, and they look for situations where they have an opportunity to do something. So typically when you travel in groups and have groups of people, that opportunity doesn't exist, and so you don't have bad things happen during that time. So just a few things to think about. Also, remember to teach your kids, and when you're walking with your kids, to try to stay in well-lit areas for that. That's what we were talking about cars turning in, not seeing dark clothing, things of that nature. So as you're approaching houses, as you're going to driveways, walking up streets, things of that nature, try to stay in the lighted areas, try to stay where people can see you. And even approaching houses, try to come through, if you're going through someone's yard or something like that, try to go through where it's lit and where you can see where you're going and people can see you.
Basically, if a home has their porch light off and their lights off, that means no candy.
Right. And that's typically the rule of thumb. Typically when people, even when they're accepting trick-or-treaters, when they run out of candy, they turn their lights off so that you know that there's nothing there. So please be respectful for people's property. We know that, Halloween, you have a lot of the toilet paper homes and egg throwing and those type of things that typically happens over the year. But we ask for people to please try to respect other people's property and respect homes and stuff. This whole event, like in Duke Street and in the 6th Street area there in Andrews, these whole events are about having fun. It's about doing things with your kids. It's about getting out in the neighborhoods and just having a good time and making memories. So we don't want that tarnished or tainted by someone getting hurt, some property getting damaged, someone having to be interviewed by the police and getting in trouble. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to avoid those type of things, and let's just have a good time and just try to be respectful about that.
As far as safety for candy, parents might want to inspect their kids' candy,
right?
Just to make sure there's nothing tampered with.
Right.
And we used to not have to worry about things like that, but
we used to be like the Tasmanian devil with our little candy box when we got home, with just tearing in it and eating things as fast as you can and throwing wrappers. And it's almost like Christmas morning when you were tearing in your candy. But we're living the day and time now where we do need to look at what's in those bags and inspect those things. And as you're getting that candy out and your parents are inspecting your candy, look for those wrappers that may have been opened or ripped or torn. Mm-hmm. If there's anything that's open, ripped, or torn that's not sealed, just throw it away, and don't let your kids have those type of candies. And sometimes they can get torn just putting them in the bags, right, and just carrying them around. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. It just means be on the safety side, be precautious.
And of course, we want to remember keep our school teachers in your thoughts and prayers on Wednesday morning after the kids fill up on sweets.
After they eat candy all night long. So I drove a school bus when I worked for the school, and I always hated seeing, there was two events that I always hated seeing. I always hated seeing Halloween, and I always hated seeing Valentine's Day. Because on Halloween and Valentine's Day, there was candy at school, and they were handing out, especially like Valentine's Day, chocolates and things like that to each other. And by the time the kids eat candy all day long at school and got on the bus, they were wild when they got on the bus on those event evenings. And so not just your teachers, but think about your bus drivers.
That's true. Sweets don't really get me excited. I love them. I crave them. But,
right.
But some people are like that with caffeine. If they drink one glass of tea near bedtime, they can't sleep all night. Yeah. But I guess it all depends on just our body's makeup.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to mention too real quick is if you have very small children, especially if you're taking more than one, if you're taking several small children with you, make sure that each child has either pinned to their costume or in their basket or something, preferably pinned to their costume somewhere, their name and their address and a number that you can, or at least a name and number where you can reach, someone can be reached in, not necessarily their address, but at least a name and number, to where if that child did wander off, did get away, and someone come in contact with that child and that child was lost, the police could know, has a number, has a name of someone that they can contact.
That's a good idea.
To let them know that, I've got your child here. If we hope that no child wanders off, but sometimes, and I know there on Duke Street especially, it can get very busy, it can get very crowded. Mm-hmm. And there around 7, 8 o'clock, there's literally thousands of people there. And so, a lot of shoulder traffic, and a lot of kids dressed up in the same costumes and all those kind of things. So it's very easy to get children mixed up if you literally don't have your hands on them or carrying them or touching them in some manner. So if you would put just your parent name and telephone number, pin it to that child somewhere. That way, if they do get lost and they're found, we'll have a number to contact that parent and say we have your child here.
What time do the trick-or-treaters normally start becoming active out in the community?
Like I say, it depends on the age. The very small ones are active all through the day. But as far as your teenagers, your middle schoolers, your older kids, they're typically around 6 o'clock or so, in the evening, and then through dark. Typically out 9 to 10 o'clock.
I'm thinking
start dying down.
I'm thinking usually Murphy Police Department normally starts closing down that section near 5 Points around 5:30 or so.
Yeah.
That gives people time to get off work, get through that area, and just go on from there and be able to use the 4-lane to bypass that area.
Right. One thing about the costumes also too is one thing that's as far as safety, as far as medical issues, is to try, especially on your smaller kids, try to have costumes that are not dragging the ground, that they could step on and trip over. Mm-hmm. Seems like every year we have several kids that trip and fall, and they may scrape knees or cut their hands or something like that when they fall and hit the ground. So if you have a costume that's very long, if you can possibly try to trim it up to where they're not stepping on it or tripping over it as they're walking.
That's a good idea.
And when you come through, especially like neighborhoods and yards and crossing footbridges and things of that nature, sometimes those costumes can get hung up on something and cause a kid to get hurt. So and we could probably talk about a million other safety tips that are out there, but there's some things to think about as you trick-or-treat.
Did you go trick-or-treating when you were a kid?
I did.
It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was. And I had a lot of good memories from trick-or-treating. Of course, when I was a teenager, I got in some trouble trick-or-treating too. So that's why I say don't do that. Don't ruin your Halloween. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I remember the old fashioned candy, and I think Reese's Cups were my favorite, and Almond Joys and Mounds. And some of my relatives or friends or relatives made those huge popcorn balls that were stuck together with some kind of syrup or something. And I just always loved those.
Those are my favorite things at Halloween, just the popcorn balls.
A lot of people didn't have a lot of money to go out and buy candy, so they'd make candy. And for some reason, that was so much more special to me that they actually took the time to do that.
My mother-in-law, she, for years, she's not physically able to do so now, but for years she would make candy for Halloween. She'd make the different chocolates and different popcorn balls and things of that nature. And she did the same thing through Thanksgiving and Christmas. She would bake constantly through Halloween through Christmas. And by the time Christmas got there, she would have her kitchen table just full of chocolates. I mean, there would be hundreds of Reese Cups and caramel bars and coconut items and it was very good. We tried for years to get her to open up some type of chocolate sweet shop, and she wouldn't do it.
I think that kind of explains why we have summertime weight and then the wintertime weight.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think we eat a little bit better or a little worse in the wintertime. But I'm getting hungry just hearing about that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. What else is going on? We talked about Halloween safety, and that's coming up before you know it. That's going to be on a Tuesday this year, which is, let's see.
I think it's this
20th.
Yeah, I think it's about 10 or 11 days from now.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, next Friday's the 27th, and it'll be the following Tuesday.
Yeah, so we have one more Friday before Halloween. Yeah. We were talking before the show started. I thought it was so good to be able to went to the mayoral debates last night, the town council debates down here in Murphy at the courthouse, and it was good to hear those candidates up there and talk about the police department and the sheriff's office and working well together and those type of things. And I think it speaks a lot of not just the sheriff's office, but also Murphy Police Department, is our willingness to partner on items and to partner on things here in town to try to get the job done. And the same thing applies to Andrews also. We're working on some things up there with Andrews now and trying to work on some of their problems and issues up there. And sometimes we don't have enough people to go around to do all the things. Well, I'll say sometimes, all the time. We don't have enough people to do things to go around to get all the problems solved that we have in our area. But we work very well together and try to get those solved. One thing I do want to mention real quick about that is I got some messages this week about some issues in our county that had to do with tribal lands and some problems with their own tribal land, and working with Cherokee Police Department and trying to get those things solved. And one thing I just want to mention real quick, because we have a unique issue here in Cherokee County, or actually Cherokee, Graham, Jackson, and Swain. We have issues that they don't have anywhere else in the state, and that's dealing with tribal properties, and that's dealing with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. And a lot of people don't realize this, how that operates and how that works, but dealing with tribal properties, and it was like dealing with another state. It's like dealing, because they are a sovereign nation themselves. And so we can't just at will go on to tribal property and do what we want to on tribal property. It takes their government asking us for assistance. Right. We have a mutual aid agreement with them, but even with mutual aid agreement, that doesn't give us authority just to go on their property and do what we want to. We have to have a request from them to go on their property. So when you call 911 and it's on tribal property and different things are happening, we transfer you to the tribal dispatch. And sometimes people get upset because sometimes it takes them a while to respond and get out here. If they don't have someone currently at the casino or patrolling the area and they have to come from Cherokee, it may take a while to get out here. And some people get frustrated with us because of that. Mm-hmm. But we respond as soon as we get a request from them. And sometimes if it's non-emergency, if there's not someone getting hurt or anything like that, they may not ask for assistance. It may take them an hour to get here. But I wanted people to understand that and know that we do work with them, and we do have areas that we do drug interdictions and we answer calls for them and things of that nature. But we can't just do that at will. We have to be requested by them to do that. So I wanted to clarify that if anyone out there is listening about how that operates or how that works. And it's the same as having mutual aid with, say, the state of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Things are happening down in Polk County just across the state line. If they request our assistance, we can go over there and help them. But we can't just go to Tennessee because we want to go to Tennessee and work over there. So it's a lot of the same type of situation there.
And there's a lot of property here in Cherokee County that is Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
There is. I would have to look again. I don't have it readily in front of me about the square acreage of tribal property here in Cherokee County, but I think there's something like 14 parcels or something like that of property here in Cherokee County. And some are small pieces, some are big pieces. Mm-hmm. Some may just have one house on it. Some parcels may just have one house. Some parcels may have 10 or so houses on it. So and they're scattered throughout the county. So that's one of the things we have to train our people out here is about how to deal with tribal properties and what you can do and what you can't do on tribal property.
Yeah, I never thought, because there's not always, signs saying welcome to certain areas. And I remember we talked about when you were investigating a missing persons report. I think they were from Silva, and then you were in the National Forest area, and you were responding there, and then you had to actually call Tennessee because at some point her person was found on Tennessee property, but without having any kind of that was a flyover to figure out.
I think it was a flyover to figure out where the GPS coordinates were, whether it was in North Carolina or Tennessee. So
and it's interesting that matters, but it does matter because it happens within a certain boundary.
And a lot of people don't realize this or don't think about it, but you think about the tribal chief of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. That chief is the equivalent to the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't put that together. They don't realize that. But he is the chief of a sovereign nation, just like the president is the president of the United States. So people I think a lot of times don't realize with the tribal council and with tribal chief and the things over there as the authority and the power that they have and what they do on their property and why we can't go on their property and do what we want to. Some people say, well, it's in the middle of Cherokee County. Why can't you just go on it? It's because it's designated nation that we can't just go do our will on there.
You can't fly to Spain and enforce laws there.
Right. So it's kind of the same issue there. Right. And so I just wanted people to understand that. I want to take that opportunity to explain that if anybody was wondering about it. But we do work well with all of our law enforcement agencies around. We try our best to get things solved and get things done. But like everything else, we'll go through spells. We'll have full staff at the sheriff's office. We'll have all of our deputies trained up, ready to go, and then we'll have an opening, and then we'll have to replace that person. And one of the things I was sharing with Tim before we opened, one of our investigators that is very very good. Her name's Tiffany Holland. She has been an asset to us and has worked a lot of our murder cases and a lot of our high profile, high crime cases. She is actually leaving. Yesterday was her last day. She left to go take a job teaching at a college and taking a teaching position. And so that leaves a void within our sheriff's office that we have to rearrange. And we've got people like patrol sergeants that we move into investigations, and then we'll have deputies step up into those sergeant positions and then have to rehire for those. So sometimes it's a never-ending cycle of trying to get people in the right positions of where they need to be. Mm-hmm. But the good thing about this, and what is great that we've seen happening over the last couple of years, is that we've got people who are showing up, and we have hired people and applied to our office that are experienced officers, that are seasoned officers from other counties and other places, that says, hey, I've been watching what y'all have been doing in Cherokee County, and I read up on the internet, I look at newspaper articles, I see what you're accomplishing, what you're doing out here, and I want to come be part of that. So we just hired a few weeks ago a guy from out on the East Coast that had always wanted to live in the mountains and had researched mountain counties and sheriff's offices out here. He was a 22-year veteran out on the East Coast, was tax certifications and firearms instructor and training instructors and does all these great things. And he shows up one day and says, I want to put an application in because I see what you're doing and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of your office. And so I think that speaks well of what we're trying to accomplish and what
Absolutely.
we're doing at Cherokee County.
And we were talking about the debates from last night, talking about how well the county sheriff's office and the town of Murphy Police Department work together, and that's important. And one thing I do want to comment, we never endorsed any candidates or anything like that. We are completely unbiased. But I just want to say I was so proud of everyone last night at the political forums. It was very friendly, hospitable. They were very respectful of each other, shook hands after. And even on the town council, they were like, even if you don't vote for me, vote for someone else here, you're going to end up with a very good town council.
I noticed that too. I had mentioned that this morning, that all the candidates, the town council candidates and both mayoral candidates, were it's almost like they were a bunch of friends just sitting around having a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
It was no one took jabs at anybody else. There was no I'm better than this one or anything else. It was just, this is what I offer. This is what I can do.
And here are my ideas.
Here's my ideas. Here's what I think that the town of Murphy ought to do. And it was very respectful to each other. And
it was refreshing.
And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the fact that they took the time to care more about their town and care more about what was going on than try to tear somebody else down or trash somebody else. I thought that was very good. I
even noticed a couple of times after one person spoke, an opponent would say, very well said, very complimentary of each other. And I hope that kind of attitude just continues to carry forward in our city.
But I will say this too, and like I say, I'm not trying to necessarily endorse anybody or talk about, but I think it should be said and it should be done that Bill Hughes has done a fantastic job.
Absolutely,
leading Murphy, and he has done a fantastic job as mayor. And I think that what you see from those candidates that step up there and the way they behaved and the way they act toward each other and the things they had to say about their town and the way they love their town was just a testament to the legacy of what Bill Hughes has left behind as he retires for his second time or third time or fourth time or however many times he retires from different jobs he's had. But I think it's just a great testament to him, to the legacy that he's left behind with the town of Murphy and the great progress that the town of Murphy has made.
Absolutely.
And, and like I say, it's just so good to see people stepping up and wanting to do the right things for the right reasons.
We have had so many comments about how beautiful our town is, and that kind of makes you proud to live here.
It does. It really does. And that, like I say, it's because of the people who were elected, the people who are in these positions. I think they really do care about their town, and they care about what happens to the town and the progress of the town. And they I've noticed in Murphy that the political side is just kind of put to the back burner, and we'll worry about that when it's time to run for something. But in the meantime, let's just do a good job and let's make the best decisions we can make. And that's a very good testament to the town of Murphy.
Yeah. So coming coming off this last presidential election with all the negative advertising,
Right.
I just want to say last night was just so refreshing. It really was, just to see such positive attitudes.
I say this jokingly, tongue in cheek, but somebody asked me, said, "How was the debates last night?" And I said, "Boring."
Nobody fought.
Nobody threw chairs or anything like that, But
no arrests were made.
right, but it was really good. It was really refreshing to see that.
And for folks who did not get to see the debates last night, feel free to go over to WKRK's Facebook page. I posted the videos last night, and you're welcome to watch those. And it's basically, it was brought to you by the Cherokee Scout, and our intention of working together is to help make people make informed decisions when they go to the polls and vote in November.
Right. And, like I say, I think didn't you do Andrews's also?
Yes, yeah. Andrews is there as well.
So Andrews's should be on there too for anybody like to go see Andrews's debates.
And if you don't feel like scrolling, because we post a lot of stuff. If you're on your computer, just go to our Facebook page, and when there's a little tab to the left, and it gives you sections. You can just click on videos, and it brings up all the videos we posted. So that's a quick shortcut to get to all the videos.
Right.
I don't know if it does it on the phone or not, but I know it does on a computer. But
I always thought that was strange about how the layout's different on computers than it is on the phone. And I do things on my phone, and I can navigate straight to it. And I go open a computer, and I'm like, where is that? I can't find it anywhere.
Exactly. a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, all right, Sheriff, I see our time has come and gone. Anything you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
No, like I say, I just thank everybody for the encouragement they give me and the encouragement they give the sheriff's office. And talking about elections and people getting elected, I get calls and text messages and stuff almost on a daily basis, actually several a day. People talk about what a good job the sheriff's office is doing, what great progress we made, hope you run again, anything we can do to help you, we'll support you, and those kind of things. And so that's good, because it's a tough job. It's a strenuous job. And some days when things are going great, it's great, but when things are falling apart, you just kind of scratch your head and wonder, should I even be doing this? Is this the right thing or not? And then when you get those encouragement back from people, it just gives you the motivation and strength just to go on. So I just want to thank everybody that encourages us.
And typically in law enforcement, that kind of line of work, they just don't always get thank yous for what you do.
No, not always.
But you do so much for the community, and we appreciate all of our law enforcement, first responders, and folks who are here to just keep us safe.
Right. Well, thank you. And like I say, it's not all about me, but it's about the guys that work there and the ladies that work there and the hard work they do. And, Carmen Edwards, for example, I call her the hardest working woman in show business. She's our gun permit lady, and we get nothing but compliments from her and the way she deals with the public and her positive attitude and the way she deals with stuff. And we get compliments on all of our people, about the hard work they do. Every once in a while you get a complaint about something and what people don't like or don't think something was handled the right way. But the compliments and the praise and encouragement we get far outweighs any negatives or any bad things that people say about the sheriff's office.
All right. Well, Sheriff, thank you very much. We'll do this again, same time, same place next week, right here on WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am.